The Ryan Tubridy Show on RTE Radio 1. Sponsored by Centre Parks. Climb, splash, cycle, snooze and smile together.
The Ryan Tubridy Show on RTE Radio 1.
My guest this morning is one of the many people who took up a craft or hobby during the early days of lockdown. Unlike most of us, he's taken it to the next level. He launched a knitwear brand, his scarves appeared at London Fashion Week, and now he has a book to share what he's learned. It sort of puts us all to shame, really. It shouldn't come as any surprise, as he's someone who puts that level of commitment to everything he does. Tom Daley, Olympic diver and now accomplished knitter and author. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Yes, I'm doing very well, thank you. Very excited that it's publication week and the Made with Love book comes out Thursday, so I'm super excited.
So releasing your baby into the world. Listeners will remember the photographs of you by the pool knitting away during the Olympics. I mean, iconic photographs, I have to say. Were you surprised by the reaction they got?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been knitting since March 2020, and it was something that I started mainly because my coach was like, you need to find something where you can sit still, rest and recover because you're always on the go. Mm-hmm. So then my husband suggested that I should try knitting because people on film sets sometimes knit squares while they're waiting. So I started and I learned and I fell in love with knitting. Then I learned how to crochet, then I learned how to design, and during the Olympics, it was my way of escaping everything and being focused on being like present and in the moment and not having to think about the worries of competition and overthinking things. And then when the Olympics happened and all of the photos came out, people started showing an interest. And then I started Made with Love and, selling knit kits and my designs online, and now the book.
It's a wonderful book. I read it last night. I devoured it. My mother actually campaigned for me to be allowed to go to home economics when I was 12 years of age and joined the girls' class to learn to knit. So I love it. And also in my family, being present and like how my mother stopped smoking in the 80s while she took up knitting, because it's really quite a powerful thing to do, isn't it?
Yes, incredibly, because, for me, it's all about that mindfulness and that slowing down and meditation, and also just being able to be really in the moment with what you're doing. And there's no satisfaction better than being able to make something yourself and start from nothing and then create something essentially from a piece of long yarn and some knitting needles or a crochet hook, whatever you choose if you do both. But there's something that's so satisfying about that, and making it with love and then gifting it to somebody else or keeping it for yourself. And that's the thing that I like about the designs of the book. So it's got so many different things. The
book Made with Love, really, that's the main message. You can actually take a piece of string and make it into something that's a gift that's made with love to give. It's just a beautiful idea. It's very good for your mental health. And the book takes you through all the stages of that, which is it's really well done, by the way, I have to say. The book is fantastic. It's a great read. And you start off with lovely inspirational stories about your own life. But for listeners who have no experience of the confidence with crafting, what are the starter projects to get them warmed up?
There's all kinds of starter projects in there, actually. So for whatever level you are, whether you've never picked up needles or a hook before in your life to somebody that's more experienced or an intermediate knitter, there's all kinds of different things in there for you. So there's little quick gifts that you can make, whether it be tags, whether it be bottle carriers, to bucket hats, to beginner projects starting probably from like something like a scarf to some basic jumpers in there. We've also got some cardigans and all kinds of different fibers and textures, and it's also about like upscaling and recycling some of the things that you've already had, like for example cutting up t-shirts to create your own t-shirt yarn for t-shirts that you're going to throw out. So there's something in there for everyone, and I think that's the good beauty of it, really. And
I love very early on, you talk about the importance of it in the book, the importance of the knitting and knitting effect on your mental health, and then you break down what different kinds of yarns, how to identify, how to buy wool. Like, it starts right at the very beginning. But I'm like you, I like to knit. I love the process of picking the colour and buying the yarn. Do you enjoy that part of it?
Yes, I absolutely love that. And the interesting thing is, because I was a lockdown knitter and I started just before lockdown, I was never actually able to go into a shop,
of course,
and look at yarn and feel it and decide which one. So it was all online. So it was kind of a little bit of stab in the dark, really. Whereas now I've had a bit more experience being able to go into shops, look at those fibers, look at those textures, being able to read the tension gauges, being able to decide which yarns and which colours for which projects. And I think that's the fun and the beauty of it, is that although there are recommended yarns and recommended colours, you can go crazy with it, and there's no such thing as something that's wrong, because every piece that you make is going to be unique. It's going to be unique to you, and there's no, like, when it's handmade, there's no two pieces the same.
And I'm just taking us back a little bit now to the effects on our mental health. And there was a lot of talk about protecting our mental health during the pandemic when you learned to knit, and you've always been very vocal about the importance of self-care, haven't you? Does crafting help?
Oh, massively. I think the amazing thing about crafting is the fact that you can slow it way back down, go back to basics, being able to bring out that inner creativity within you, and being able to just be able to like start something and then have something that's finished, and you can kind of do whatever you want to do to it. You can adapt and change halfway through. There's just something that's very mindful about it as well. And, you know, I like the side of it when I'm designing, creating things, but at the same time, when you're following a pattern, it's nice to be able to be creative yet follow instructions, so you know what you're doing, where you're at, and I think for different people there's different elements to how there's always something from crafting or something from those kind of creative outlets that people can get different things from it.
And I can testify, because I've seen the book, which is out this week. If you're an experienced knitter or crocheter, there's something in this book for you. There's ideas, there's developments, but if you've never done it before, it's a great way to start, isn't it?
Yeah, because with all of we go through the whole basics of how to knit, how to cast on, how to crochet, what all the stitches are, all the different techniques with sewing up and seaming. And also when you're in the project, if there's something that comes up that might be difficult or new, it gives you the pages of where to go back to be able to refresh yourself on the tips and the tricks and being able to understand everything about the pattern. So yeah, also, there's other bits in there about the importance of it and of mindfulness, and if you know somebody that knits or crochets, it's a great little Christmas gift, I must say.
Exactly. So when you open the book, within the first sort of 10 pages, there's a quote from you that literally jumps off the pages. You say, "Without knitting and crochet, I wouldn't have won a gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics. I'm not saying there was no chance, but knitting helped." That's quite the statement.
Yeah, but I honestly do think that is the case, because, you know, during the Olympics, it was, you know, riddled, like COVID was still a thing. We weren't allowed outside of our rooms. We had to go from the room to eat, to back again, to training. And there was so much time to overthink, because we weren't allowed outside of the village. We weren't allowed to socialize. So instead of me overthinking and worrying about my competition, I was able to just dive right into my knitting and just be there and be able to escape from everything. And I think there was so much power in that, of being able to just switch off from thinking about the Olympics and just be into something else. And I think, you know, everybody has the power to be able to tap into something to switch off from the stressful part of their life.
Wonderful. And then to take it a step further, you say knitting and crocheting also means telling stories. What do you mean by that?
There's so many different ways to tell stories with, especially for me, when I see a piece of knitwear now in the shops, I see the stitches, I see how, I try to look about how it was made. And then when you are knitting something, you know, for me, my story of what I was knitting at the Olympics was the Olympic cardigan that I made.
Yes.
And I was able to just design it as I went, be able to figure out what I wanted to add, what I wanted to take away. And I wanted to be able to take away from those Olympics that this cardigan is something that I'm going to look back on in the future and think, I made that at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
Amazing.
And it so for every piece can tell a story. It can be something that's plain, or it can be something that kind of really means something to you, and you can do the color work or embroidery on it. There's so many different elements that you can use to tell a story through the things that you make.
Now, Tom, you're a busy man, but you talk about how to find the time. You encourage the reader in the book with practical tips. Tell us about that.
Yes, I mean, you know, everybody has such incredibly busy lives. And, you know, I started off with doing 10 minutes of mindfulness and meditation every morning. And then I had a kid. So now, as he's 4 years old, it becomes a little bit more difficult and challenging to find the time for 10 minutes of complete silence. So for me with knitting, I like to just be able to find little moments here and there, not thinking I have to sit down and knit from the moment I wake up to when I go to sleep. But I carry it in my bag so that if there's ever a 5-minute period where I'm waiting for a train, or if I'm on a train, or if I'm on a bus, or if I'm going to a different, whether I'm sitting up and I've got Robbie's gone to bed and I'm having a cup of tea and I want to sit and knit, being able to just find times to be able to reset and spend time on you, I think is really important. And I like to do it between each meeting or phone call that I might have, to be able to kind of reset and then go on to doing something else that I'm have to work on next.
So you mentioned your son there, and I read that when you were younger, you were pretty handy at craft, so much so that your dad designed a space for you in the garage.
Yeah, in the garage, I had a little workshop, if you like. I had like a little mini desktop with little chairs, and I had all these different coloured pieces of paper and scissors and glue and glitter and different books and learning how to draw. So I was always quite creative and crafty in that sense from when I was young. So it's just with diving, I really was figuring out what I could do to find the time to be able to do it, and knitting really became that for me.
And apart from diving, obviously your dad was encouraging that creative side of you, which is very sweet.
Yes, so incredibly sweet. And my dad was incredibly creative in his own right as well. He used to make train tracks for us and like create things out of like is it like plaster cast, if you like, and make like hills. And he was an electrician, so we would put like light switches in it, so when a train went past, the light would go off, and he'd like paint these little trees. So he also really loved being creative in that way as well. Very, very sweet.
Your dad's name was Robert and your son is Robbie, which is very cute. So what do you take from your relationship with your dad when it comes to raising your son?
When my dad was alive, I used to find him extremely embarrassing. Everything he did was embarrassing. Like, oh my gosh, Dad, stop doing that. And actually, now being a parent, you realise how much your parents sacrificed for you in the first place. You realise that the way that he was acting, the way that he was, it just made me realise actually he didn't really care what anyone else thought of him, and as long as his friends and family were happy and healthy and he was being the best person he could be. And I think there are so many lessons that I'm now understanding that he wasn't necessarily trying to teach me, but just so happened to make sense when you're a parent and you get older.
Your parents sound really wonderfully supportive.
Yeah, they've always been so incredibly supportive, and that's the amazing thing, is that they also never like pushed me into doing anything. They were just there to be there as a sounding board of the things that I enjoyed and the things that I didn't.
And do you think that solid backing has given you the confidence to be an advocate for those who don't feel accepted by society or even by their families?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I'm so incredibly lucky and privileged to be so accepted and loved by my family. And I think there's lots of people, especially if you're, for me, as being a gay man and coming out, like, of course, in society, there's some things that have become a little bit more of a challenge. And I think having my family be there to support me through that was so incredibly important. And, I feel like I need to do whatever I can in my power to be able to help make it a slightly easier and better process for other people as well.
Amazing. I mean, as an Olympian, as an out gay man in public life, you haven't experienced such intense highs and lows, and I love that you've created this book to share such a simple pleasure.
Yes. If somebody had told me 5 years ago that I was going to be probably more known for my knitting than my diving, I would have laughed at that. But here we are.
Okay, and in terms of diving, I have to ask, what's next?
Yeah, I haven't actually been back to full-time training since the Olympics yet. And, I have to start making some decisions soon. But, I'm kind of enjoying my time where I'm able to spend more time with my family and being able to explore other passions. But, we're coming up for 18 months to go till the Olympics. So I have to start making, I want to go back and test the water, go back to the pool and see how I feel, really.
Wonderful. Are you a sea swimmer at all?
No, well,
I read that you don't really enjoy swimming.
I did a comic relief challenge at the beginning of this year, and I did like a mile open water, and it was like 4.8 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
So it was quite chilly. But yeah, I did a mile in that.
We're mad for sea swimming here in Ireland, and we're big fans of yours. Listen, the book Made with Love, Get Hooked with 30 knitting and crochet patterns is going to be available from Thursday. Get to your local bookshop and grab a copy. Tom Daley, wonderful chatting to you, and the best of luck with the book.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Thank you.